From WFAA TV Channel 8, this is a Family First special presentation, Listening to Texas Teens.
I had problems at home, and I would try to talk to her, and it was like she didn't even listen. She didn't have time to listen to me.
Now, from South Grand Prairie High School, here's News 8's Brad Watson and Carmen Ainsworth.
And good evening to you once again. We appreciate that you're joining us tonight for a lot of important things that some young people have to say. Growing up as a teenager is a very difficult time of life in normal times, but in light of what's happened, say, in Colorado last week, perhaps it's even more important now that we talk and also listen. The art of listening. It's something we don't do particularly well, especially when it involves our children.
A lot of times we're too busy, we're too distracted, and too often we're not around enough to even begin to hear.
Too often it takes a horrible tragedy like the one in Littleton, Colorado, to make us stop and ask ourselves, am I truly listening?
Well, listen for a few minutes to Channel 8's Doug Fox.
At an age when youngsters begin to believe they are invincible, these teenagers now must deal with the reality of how fragile life can be. Authorities want to know what filled two young men with such rage that they gave up on life, their own and 13 others, including teacher Dave Sanders.
The one thing that I will regret my entire life is that I did not give him a hug and tell him he was my hero and that I loved him.
William David Sanders sacrificed his life ushering others to safety. Leadership and sacrifice, two qualities also sought by teenagers.
A leader has self-confidence and will go forward when others hesitate.
Character counts at South Grand Prairie High School. In a darkened auditorium, candles prefer honor and distinction as one student after another is tapped for membership in the National Honor Society. It's a school that values talk in the place of violence.
Shot in the back, and
he's bleeding to death.
And he was bleeding to death. And
the signs that help me, I'm bleeding to death.
Students in a media technology class discuss the tragedy in Littleton and the danger they all fear from the unknown.
Well, you know, everybody goes, oh, we should have known, we should have known. Should we? Should they have known? Would you know here?
Well, they had.
An important part of what these youngsters learn in school goes far beyond the rudiments of math, science, and technology. They are learning about life and how to get along with each other. And some have grown to accept limitations on their freedom.
I like all the new rules and stuff. I didn't at first, but now that I think about it, I think it's going to help us all to grow as a school and individually.
The problem with most teenagers today is just not believing in yourself and not having faith in yourself and what you can do.
I hold grudges real bad, and if someone does something to me, then I get real mad and I'll try to fight them. But I wouldn't want to inflict pain on someone real bad. But you know, that's sometimes in my way that's how you get respect.
There's going to be no physical or verbal violence.
When conflicts arise at South Grand Prairie High, there are student mediation teams, 50 students trained to sit and listen and try to resolve disputes before someone is hurt physically or emotionally. Sarah and Liz have asked for help.
Well, Sarah and we used to be like really close friends, and like throughout time or over a couple of months, I guess, we just stopped talking to each other and we won't even say hi to each other in the hall.
I had problems at home, and I would try to talk to her, and it was like she didn't even listen. She didn't have time to listen to me. So I met some other people, and I started talking to them, and they listened to me.
These empowerment teams are used at a number of school districts, and teachers and principals say they're working because at the core of these disputes is genuine concern.
They really do have sincere feelings, and they deal with a great deal of stress that we don't know about, and it teaches them that, you know what, someone will listen to you.
A lot of times we tend to think teenagers are callous and don't care, and something like this happens and you realize, no, they care a lot. They care a lot about each other and what happens.
And you say, why?
Perhaps someone didn't listen long enough nor hard enough in Littleton, Colorado. And perhaps those who taunted and teased two young men in black trench coats never realized that words also can inflict great pain. What a terrible price we pay for not taking the time to hear what someone's saying.
So much pain and no good reason why. You've cried until the tears run dry.
Doug Fox, Channel 8 News.
So we've set aside the next half hour to get a better understanding of how teenagers think and how they feel.
Earlier tonight, about 1,200 people joined us here in the cafeteria for a Family First Town meeting to listen to them. We'll show you some of that a little later.
We invited some of those teens and a few adult experts to continue that conversation right now.
That's right, and we're going to start with Kate Irwin. She's a 19-year-old student and author. She's written a book called Depression, Challenge the Beast Within Yourself and Win. She did also the art within the book, and it describes an amazing story about surviving depression. Kate, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, can you tell us about your book? Tell us your story.
Well, I'll cut it short.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Well, it was about, I was going into my freshman year in high school, and I had noticed that I just became unmotivated. Things that used to interest me just didn't anymore, to a point that summer where I didn't even want to get out of bed. And then that gradually got to the point where I was suicidal, and was very close to ending it. But then I was hospitalized to keep myself safe, which pretty much saved my life.
And you were able to essentially draw yourself out of this depression with the drawings in your book.
Right. Art has always been a therapy to me, just to get it out on a paper and have it in a tangible form where you can show it to somebody. This is how I feel. This is what's, inside me controlling my thoughts and stuff, and it's the beast, basically.
How important was it to you at that dark moment to express yourself to your parents, siblings, friends, to get that hurt out?
Well, most people recognized that there was something wrong with me because I was usually pretty lively, and I just totally transformed into somebody who was really, I didn't want to even talk to anybody. I had a look in my eyes where there wasn't anything behind it. Mom would look at me and there wouldn't be a soul behind my eyes, People asked me what was wrong, but I didn't even know myself, so how do you explain something like that when you don't even know yourself? But I did talk about it eventually when it got so bad that I couldn't handle it myself, and that was a lifesaver.
And did you talk about it? I know some of the teenagers we talked to tonight said it was a lot easier to talk to their peers rather than their parents. Who did you talk to?
Well, I'd say my mom. My mom and I have a very close relationship. I think it's pretty rare. But my best friend went through it right alongside, and she knew. Just like Mom,
All right, thank you so much. And we're also going to talk to other teenagers. We're just getting started here. We'll be right back.
I'm involved in a lot of things at school. I think I've got a successful future ahead of me and all that kind of thing, but I don't really have that at home either. I've just kind of found my way through good peers, through getting involved in stuff. So if we could just have that. I know it's so simple, it's so basic, but we really do need that today. We really need to be able to go home and maybe have dinner with each other, or just talk to our parents to be close to them again like it used to be.
I wish my dad knew that he's an important person in my life, a very important person. Just to know that he's always there and that he cares not only for me, but my sister and my mother. He's always loving, and there may be hard times or good times, but he's always a great father.
Thank you so much for joining us. As we mentioned earlier, more than 1,000 people, close to 1,200 people, a lot of them teenagers, attended our Family First Town meeting here tonight.
And here's some of what we heard tonight.
I think it's important to realize that peer pressure is part of it, and that family does help a lot, and that friends help a lot, and teachers and counselors. But I think the most important thing to realize is it starts with you. You have to be secure with yourself, and you have to understand who you are, and that if you're fat or if you're thin, you are fine the way you are, and you have to find people who will fit and who will like you for who you are and not try to form to be like them.
You have to define your own person, because if you let anybody else tell you who you are, they're defining what you will be in the future. So you have to take a stand and be your own person, even if you're standing alone.
It starts at a younger age than a lot of adults believe. It starts in elementary. I have a little sister, and she comes home and she says that she sees kids getting in fights, and they think it's just high school. It's not. It starts when they're little, and then that's when they choose who they're gonna hang out with and who they're gonna be with and who they click with. So the adults need to target the younger kids, not just high school. It's too late.
So from one parent to the other, it's time that we put the family back in the family room. Sit down, talk to your kids, ask them, what do they want to be when they grow up? How do they plan to get there? And how are you going to help them achieve those dreams? It starts in the family. It's not our public officials' place to raise our children. They didn't ask to be born. We brought them into this world. It is our time to take care of them.
Well, I'm not trying to be racist, but I know my blacks park over there, whites park right here, Mexicans park in the back. It's just like that. It's just like, I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. Most of these people know when you go out in the parking lot, it's segregated. People, the people that wear black park right here. People that wear white park over there. It's just like that. That's how it is in high school.
I think it's kind of sad that we don't mix more than we do, but then again, you can't exactly blame everybody for it because it's the way you sort of grew up and you're more comfortable with the friends that you're with and you just sort of naturally go eat with them or go park the same area they do. I just wish that we could just mix more than we actually do.
Parents and counselors and principals and administration, guys, I just want to say to you, you don't need to just pay attention to the kids who are getting in gangs and who are getting involved in those kinds of violent actions. You need to pay attention to the kids who look like they're falling back and they're crying inside. You need to pay attention to those kids who look like they're ready to commit suicide, because that is another big cause of death among teenagers in this country.
We do want to talk to you, and we do want to reach out whenever you're down or when you're depressed. But a lot of times I think our efforts are felt to be rejected, or maybe it's felt that we're being intrusive. So my question is to the teenagers, how can we communicate with you and let you know that we're available and that we want to support you as much as your friends do?
I personally believe that also, no matter how many times you approach the teen or the peer, they're not going to accept it until they are ready. And the more that you push, the further you're going to push them away.
I think you need to just find anybody to talk to, because bottling up your emotions is unhealthy. You know, it can cause you to get stressed out and just enraged sometimes. And if you don't have any friends, you know, talk to God. If no one else is there, then that's the only person you can turn to.
Every Sunday that parents go to, and they give you a list of the gangs, and this is what to look for when your child's in a gang and when your child's coming home and when they're drunk or when they're high. And my mom went to those kind of meetings, and then she bettered herself. You parents have to better yourself before you can better your children on discipline.
I went through life just stumbling and bumbling until I was 35 years old. And then finally I got some treatment. And the best way not to do drugs or alcohol is not to start them.
We can do all the just say no and anti-drug things, but as long as our parents are not taking the role that they need to, it's still going to happen until the parents really take the role and say that they need to do this and say no, then we won't get anything done.
Teens really want some stand-up parents.
Yeah, we don't want to just walk all over them. That's not their job.
Well, let's call now on our panel of adult experts from left to right. Dr. Michael Dixon is a Fort Worth school psychologist. Joyce Ann Strickland is the executive director of Mothers Against Teen Violence. She lost her 19-year-old son, Chris, in a murder in 1993. And John Matthews is the executive director of the National Community Safety Institute, and he is a school safety expert. And let's talk about what parents are thinking and how parents can help teens who are struggling. From your various areas of expertise, what are parents supposed to be deciphering from what we just heard? Dr. Dixon?
Well, I think you said it well earlier, Brent. Listening is an art, and we're not certainly all equally good at it.
and I think it's not as easy sometimes as it sounds. But I think we do need to try to stay connected to our kids, and we need to know what's going on in their life, and we need to sort of not take no for an answer. You know, how was school today? Okay. Well, what really happened at school today? Well, not much. Well, tell me, you know, like asking 3 times, say, as a minimum, not just taking that first answer, you know, as well, nothing or whatever. And again, it's just not an easy task. I mean, I think being a parent is probably one of the toughest roles we'll ever have in our whole life.
Suzanne?
It's the toughest role, and but then it's the most important role. And I think that parents have to arm themselves with information and understand the ingredients of good parenting. That's very important.
John, one of the questions tonight was from a student. Is his high school here, South Grand Prairie High, going to be secure enough? Obviously, they're thinking about it in light of what happened last week.
It's on the minds of the students, and it ought to be on the minds of the parents also. You know, we've got roles and responsibility as parents and obligations to watch out for the kids, and I think the students have obligations to watch out for themselves and to listen to each other. And if I had one word for the parents, it'd be perseverance. I've talked to a lot of parents who said, well, I called the school or I tried to get help. But you got to persevere. If you really care about your kids, if you really love your kids, you got to keep calling. You got to talk to the counselors. You've got to make sure that the students get assistance.
Okay, thanks very much. And we'll hear more from our teens who are assembled here tonight when we come back in just a moment.
My parents don't understand how really difficult life is right now for me. Because with school and college and looking for scholarships, and it's really, you know, there's a lot of pressure and trying to pass classes and keep up with your activities. It's really hard to do all of this at once.
I wish my mom knew how much I loved her. I mean, if anything like that ever happened to me, I mean, you need to say that you love them every day.
Welcome back to our conversation. We are now going to turn the mics over to our teenagers who are with us. And since we just got finished talking about parents and what parents can do in order to help you, I'm curious to find out what you're looking for from parents. And we'll start over here with Amber.
Okay, something that I think is that adults always stereotype teenagers, and they're always telling us show respect for adults, but a lot of times the adults don't show us respect first. But I think if parents would show their kids more respect, then they would get more respect back.
Anybody else have any thoughts on what they want from parents?
We're going to just let her pass it down. When
That's
we said
right.
we were giving them the mic, we were literally true. Right,
exactly.
right behind.
Okay.
Thank you, Olivia.
I just think that we as teens, 16, 17, 18, the biggest thing that I look for in my parents is to support and to believe that our life is hard. Just because we're 16, 17, and 18 and that we go to high school during the day and that we see our friends all day doesn't mean that we don't have stress and that we don't have hardships in life.
Let's go over here. When we were talking earlier, everybody agreed that it's the toughest time right now in 1999 to be a teenager than decades previously. Why is that?
So many expectations that we're expected to live up to. We're expected to be a great student. We're expected to be great athletes. We're expected to always stay out of trouble. And when we slip into a little bit of trouble, it seems like, oh no, that's a bad child. She wasn't brought up the right way. But that's not right. It's so much harder to be a teenager now because there's so much more that we have to do that they didn't have to do in the 60s. Things have changed so much.
What about this side? Julius?
I feel that all those things are a little bit different now, and I do feel that, we do have a lot of stuff that affects us, but I don't think people realize that our parents grew up in the 60s and 70s, so that was one of the toughest times in America. Desegregation, the hippie movement, so drugs were a problem then just as big as they are now. Premarital sex, all the same things we go through, so it may not be the exact same thing, but I think they have a lot of events that happen to them that's comparable to the stuff that happens to us. We just need to listen a little bit and you'd be surprised.
I think that the issues there's still some of the very same issues, but we still need to deal with it just because my heart goes out to all the people at Columbine. I mean, with all these instances going on in our public schools, we have to start thinking about what we can do to make it better and make a difference. So.
I think all of us want our parents to lay down some kind of guidelines, you know, and I think that's one thing that parents need to do is they need to take on the role as a parent and say, these are the limitations, because I think, you know, all of us feel that whenever our parents say, you know, I don't want you to do this, that they're saying that because they love us and they care about us and they want to protect us.
You know, one of the things that I thought was interesting from the town meeting is somebody stood up and said, you know, I really don't want necessarily advice. I just really want somebody to listen. Would you agree with that? Yeah, does anybody have anything to say about that?
Actually, I believe that it's not so much the issues that we deal with, but it's more just the fact that we deal with the issues at such a more young, we deal with such mature issues at such a young age now, like child abuse and sex in general, and just the simple fact that it's easier for children to get drugs and alcohol compared to the way it used to be, and it used to be a little bit more difficult to get it. And I think that we should be able to go and talk to our parents about it and let our parents know when people are, you know, trying to convince us to use drugs or to use alcohol or anything of that kind.
Go ahead.
I think that everything starts, like she says, everything's starting at a younger age now. The kids are starting drugs earlier. Child abuse is becoming bigger now than it was back at our parents' days of growing up. And as far as having somebody to listen to is more important than having your parents care about you, and you know that, but it's nice knowing that somebody else can care about you and to listen to you other than your parents, and to have them listen to you also.
What of the notion of fitting in? We've heard and read a lot about these two young men in Colorado and how they were almost wallpaper shy and they didn't fit in. Talk to us a little bit about how hard is it to fit in, even if you're considered popular? Anybody? Go ahead.
I mean, it's not necessarily whether you fit in or your popularity or whatever, it's just the different cliques. I mean, if you wear a certain type of clothes, or the amount of money your parents make, or the extracurricular activities that you're in, I mean, just the type of people that are in those, and then people just judge people in what they do, what they believe in, and then that just, I mean, you just base it on different types of things, different interests, and then that just goes on with just talking about people, making fun of people, and then that just goes on from there.
Go ahead.
Okay, cliques.
Yeah.
Cliques nowadays are just not open. They won't accept you on different things, especially if you're new to things or if you're just new to a school. They're not going to accept you because they've been so set in their ways for so many years that it's just, they won't let anything else in. People aren't opening their minds to different things and there's so many more things out there that they can do, and they're just so close to what they've been used to that they're just not being open-minded enough to let other people in, explore new ideas.
So do you think there are any solutions in terms of if you feel like an outsider? I mean, how do you try and belong?
What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do?
I think that it's important for schools to offer a lot of extracurricular activities, but I think that because that gives everyone the chance to fit in with something, you know, whether it's art, or whether it's band, or whether it's sports, or any type of leadership activity, that gives everyone the opportunity to get in with a group and to meet some kids through that.
Dr. Dixon, could I just ask you real quick, what's a parent to do who's got a teen with a fitting in kind of problem?
Well, I think this young lady really said something very important, and that is that we, not just the school, but communities and parents need to find things that their kids are interested in. They need to promote whatever particular talent or interest that the child has, and see that they have a connection. I think it's very important that we maintain these things, and especially in light of TOS and all the emphasis on that. Kids need connections.
Okay, where's the mic over here? Go ahead.
I was just going to say that as far as the cliques and stuff go, you know, you just need to find somebody with similar interests as you. I mean, there's always somebody to talk to, and you always need somebody to talk to, because that probably would have stopped all this stuff that happened in Colorado or whatever. If they just, you know, just got down with somebody and just let it out, it probably wouldn't have never happened.
Now also, another thing that was brought up, the fact that things are starting so much younger nowadays. If a parent, let's say a parent feels that they want to start a conversation with their teenager, they haven't been as close as they think they could have been, do you have any suggestions for how parents might be able to approach their teens? Yes,
Olivia?
Olivia? Yeah.
Go ahead.
I
I really believe that many parents don't think they can make a difference because they can't exactly relate to their children or their teenager or the young kids. But a friend once told me that in the world you are somebody, but to somebody you are the world. And everybody needs somebody, and if they were to pay attention to their children as if they were the world to them, then it would make a whole lot of difference.
That's good advice.
And parents should just be themselves. They shouldn't be intimidated by what's going on in society or what their kids are going through. They should just be able to be themselves and love their kids for who they are and accept them as who they are. And that'll make the kids open up to them and be able to talk to them.
Okay, thank you so much. And we will be right back.
Listening to Texas Teens, a News 8 Family First special presentation will return in a moment.
When I think about my friends, I wonder if they know how important they are to everyone else. Every single one of my friends has played a big part of my life. They're a major influence, and without every single one of them, I'm sure I would be a different person now.
As we found with our Family First Town meeting earlier tonight, there just wasn't enough time for all the people who wanted to talk and all the many very good thoughts, but we are out of time right now. We want to thank these teens who stayed up with us tonight and shared some of their thoughts with us, and helpful they were. We also want to thank our panel of experts for joining us tonight and giving us some of their insights as well.
That's right, and we should say that our town meeting and this special program are just the beginning of what needs to be an ongoing dialogue in schools and communities and in families.
Instead of pointing fingers, what we learned tonight is that we all need to talk to teenagers, not at them. And more importantly, we need to listen to them.
Yes, a special thanks to South Grand Prairie High School. And once again, thank you so much to all of our guests for joining us.
And thank you for watching tonight. Have a good evening.